Let's keep it here. This is the Nowhere Market Update. Glad that you're here. We're going to cover Bitcoin. We're going to cover some alts. It's going to be more of an alt-focused video versus observations on Mondays, which are more of just general market ideas on the weekly time frame, as you may know. So some preliminaries. If you haven't joined my Discord, go ahead and do that because it's ramping up. We're getting a lot more content coming in. I'm going to introduce some new things over the course of the next couple months, and one of them is going to be um, some bots and other things like that. I actually did a somewhat of a survey, basically said, hey, like this if you like this, that if you guys want me to do some small caps, and I got an overwhelming response about that. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to do that in a way that's as sensitive as possible because it's a tough thing. There's a lot of people out there that are doing it for this extreme purpose of just trying to make money off you. They're trying to use you as exit liquidity. I don't want to do that. I don't even need to do that. That's not how I roll. But I do want to provide content if there is an interest. So we'll take a look at that, see how I can provide that in a way that is beneficial to you. Um, Other than that, I think all my other updates for Discord are going to be in that Discord. So go ahead and check that out in the description. I think that's about it. We'll discuss a few things about this fake out because that's front and center for me. Look at the market conditions going into the weekend, and let's just get right started. All right, going into Bitcoin, we had a pump yesterday. We had a pump so far today, and this is an interesting thing. So I've discussed this in Discord. This is a Discord based video, by the way. So I'm going to share this in Discord first. But if you are listening to this and you're not in Discord, it's because I've already shared it later somewhere else, and you should maybe join Discord. I'm not saying you have to or you should, but that's where I share my content first. And so typically it also gets catered to them as well. So if you want more content catered to you, you do have a voice in my Discord, and you can help make these and better, improve tips. I do chart requests, things like that. So anyway, I don't want to get too far into that because I mention that every video, and I'm sure that gets tiring. So one thing that I mentioned in observations is that we need to hold 26,000 in order for this to be a true fake out. We actually did not. We held up to about 25,800, but we stopped there. However, we zoom in, we have a very small bullish engulfing. And so that's what I wanted to see. That still technically qualifies as far as it could be a fake out eventually. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We have another bullish candle here. Apologies, I might have to clear my throat, but I'm going to mute it as I can and edit it out. But with this, we have a pretty decent bullish candle. So now we kind of have the fake out going with in our favor. We have the RSI getting ready to flip. We have a nice, very, very, very nice bullish Abraham wedge. It's what I want to see. And so I'm a little frustrated actually because there's a lot of people on X that are saying, they're long now all of a sudden, things like that. Like I've been telling you guys, this is supposed to be happening. I don't want to get into it. I'm kind of tired actually of even trying to talk about it. I'm just mentally exhausted too. But we have the fake out, and so that's what I like to see. We're going to see some continuation more than likely. So here's your base point. That's your deviation fake out. So this is the basis of what we can look at. And so I have no problem thinking that now we can think about going to the upside, and this is kind of where I would go right here. So about 28,000, 29,000. I see zero issues. I see zero problems with trying to go up. I've had somebody mention to me last week how, pumps are meant to be faded, and I strongly disagree right now. I strongly disagree. I'm not saying that may not happen. The problem is with trading, you always need to assume multiple things can happen, and you need to have the idea that the very exact opposite thing that you think will happen will happen. So, if you have a very strong long thesis idea, you need to also assume that there could be a very strong short thesis idea as well. And so that's what makes trading so difficult. There's a lot of things that can happen at any time. The problem is that when you get somebody else that really they have to think a certain way, and that's the problem. Okay, just because things have happened the same way for the past 3 months does not mean it'll happen today or tomorrow or the next day. You always need to have an assumption that things can change. Trading is dynamic. Okay, take it for someone that, like, I went to school for like an art based, humanity based thing, and I also went into some sciences as well. Like, I have a diverse set of things, and you need to look at trading as both an art form and as a logic form. And so that's the key difference. A lot of people look at trading analysis as like pure logic. Well, if A has happened 10 times, it's going to happen an 11th time. And that's not the case. Okay, it can change, it can be dynamic, but it's also more of an art based form. It tells a story, okay? And so that's one thing we have to look at as well. And so, very complicated. It's very interesting. Maybe I'll make a separate video, maybe I won't, but that's another story. So I think going to look for the upside is something that we should be looking for. This is kind of my confirmation. Unless we drop down, I this is valid, and I don't necessarily think that anybody is late in particular either. And we're starting to go down a little bit here, but the thing is too is we're probably going to go down a little bit, and that's going to probably give some confidence to the doubters. But if we hold above this, I do think a long idea is worth it. So we might get a little bit of a downtrend here. So the thing is too, we might go down just a little bit. I'm just going to say roughly about 1%. You could target like here right at the lows, and then you could target at the highs. This is an amazing long idea right here. This is textbook of what you want to do generally. Again, not saying that it'll work. I never suggest that things will work or they won't. But I'm also not saying it as an excuse to just get out of a situation like some of these other people do, like these scammers or these small cap influencers. You know, this is a valid concept. You have a valid entry point. It'd be a retrace after the close. I do think I don't think this will go all the way back to the beginning, but down here below, but it could. But even if it does or does not, I still think this is a good entry point because after we close, which would probably be in about 6 hours, yeah, a little over 6 hours, that we could get a 1% drop. I think that's easily understandable. And so this would be our stop loss. Again, if we go below this blue box, I think the trade idea is invalid. If not, I think that this is a good setup, and that's our long. You might be wondering why I didn't stop like right here, like underneath here, and the reason is I don't consider this a valid price point because that was pure news based and that also faded, and so this has no relevance in my opinion over actual supply and demand, and so that was a result of the market just being too inefficient, and being purely news based. So I like this idea a lot. This is probably one of the best ideas that I've seen for quite some time. And so overall, this is kind of your structure. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I'm spending too much time on this as it is. But we also have this structure right here. And you can see that we touch right on it. This is a double bottom, essentially. Excuse me. And I know we have some issues regarding this, but we can see a few things. So, firstly, a lot of people wanted the downtrend, and this happens. I don't need to get in a rant, but this happens all the freaking time. We talked about this. I made a 30-minute video about this, but we talked about this here. People thought we were going way down. We thought we were going way down here. Same thing here. It's the same thing. Every time people go into like peak, like fear, we bounce. Okay, and we still have a ways to go before we truly bounce. But I still think the upside is way more favorable right here. So we had the double bottom. We had a slow. We had this was your indication that you should start buying in. Had a slow bleed, but we also have the momentum going up on the RSI. Yes, this isn't a divergence, or no, it isn't a divergence, I should say. And we have this little weird thing going on here, but this is still a build up. You can still look at this and have it be divergent in scope without being a technical divergence per se. We also have the same thing on the awesome oscillator. Something I don't really mention as much as I usually do is that this is pretty healthy insignificant, that it is somewhat of a divergent pattern. And so we have the same thing here on the upside that led to a slow downtrend. We have this one here, slow downtrend. And so I would not be surprised if we actually get a slow uptrend even to the $29,000-$30,000 range. And so this even could be a reaccumulation period. We could see something like a consolidation here and then an up move. Let me see. I hate using the brush tool, but let me see if I can find it. They change everything, and it really drives me nuts. Here it is. It's like why categorize these? It doesn't make sense. Like I understand why, but it just makes it complicated. So anyway, um, I can see a move like this, consolidation, and then something like so, and that might take the end of the year, and that's completely okay because that might be an alt run, perhaps. I don't know. So I don't want to presume too much, but that's kind of an idea. I don't. The length doesn't really correlate to the idea that I'm saying. So one thing is for sure, we do have the bullish wedge. I really like that a lot. 4 hour. This is what that looks like. Could be accumulative in scope. Again, so this is kind of like your basis. This is a deviation now. You don't put deviations into the same pattern when you look at this. And so this is somewhat divergent. So I would say again, the 25,800, even down here to 2,500. I think this area, this area in particular, is where I would long. This one right here, the top one. So that's kind of goes into what I say. I think here would be good at the bottom of that intraday, and then something like so. And that's basically pretty similar to what I mentioned earlier. So you got that going on. So that's pretty much it with Bitcoin. A lot of stuff's happening with this. I like it. I like how the market's setting up. We are getting a retrace, but I want to emphasize that um, it doesn't mean that we're going down. Like I really hate when people say this. I hate how people say, "Oh, we have a 1% move. We're gonna pump," and then like after every 3% move, it's like, "Oh, we're gonna go down," and we went down 1%. See, we went down. See, and it's so stupid. Okay, it's so dumb because it only makes sense in a small amount of time frame to what you want the price action to do. Okay, I've seen it so many times where a coin has gone up 5%, 6%, and then it goes down 4%, right? So pretty significantly relative to the pump, right? But then it goes up another 15%. And because you didn't have the patience to hold for 2 freaking percent, you lost out on 15%. Okay? Or whatever 15 minus the rest of it was. So it drives me nuts because people don't understand how subtrends work. People have a scalp mentality all the time, and it's not an efficient way to trade most of the time. So, and even if it is, what are you trading in response to that? You're trading your time. So is that, you're consumed by the price action constantly. You only made 2% because it went up to 6 and then it lost 4, so then you missed out and then it pumped anyway. So not only did you miss out, but you also wasted your time. And so you're down bad relative to what you could have had. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I'm looking for the bigger moves. So that is Bitcoin. I'll digress for my rants. We'll go to Ethereum. I want to cover Solana again, even though I covered it on Monday, and then we'll do a few more alts like Aave and Atom and things like that. So, all right, going to Ethereum. This is the daily time frame. This is one thing I'm looking at. So we had a few things going on. We had the breakdown. I mentioned this in Discord. I was looking for a breakdown at this red trend line, and this is. Let me kind of adjust this because it shouldn't be this big. I don't think. Anyway, I'll figure that out. So this is kind of like your trend line. This one was going to be like a if this doesn't work out, then that's the downward target, but that's also the same for that order block. So this is the red trend line that I'm looking at. This is pretty much what I call a legacy trend line. So it should the idea is that it should bounce there, and if it doesn't, you have to rethink everything over the past year. And so the idea behind that is yes, it may not bounce there. and I'm perfectly open to that thesis. But the problem is that most people think it just won't bounce at all. And the problem is if you think that it won't, then you need why are you even looking at the chart? Because now you got to like look at the past 12 months in a different context. And it doesn't make sense. So that's where these narrative things thread into how you should view these price points. So anyway, I was expecting that it would bounce. It actually did not originally, and I mentioned in Discord that hey, we could get a fake out. This is very reminiscent of the Bitcoin thing, and sure enough, it did. And so now I'm looking at. I'm not satisfied with longing here. I wanted to be. That's where we. That's where I wanted to be at, but we didn't hold that, so I didn't long it. And then this would be my confirmation, but now this almost sets up a bearish retest. Now I said a lot of stuff, but the point is I'm waiting for this reclaim right here. We have here is your support structure. We need to reclaim that support structure. If we can get that, which I have it set out as an alert, this would be kind of like my positioning. And to be quite honest with you, I would probably just hold this until 2000. Very nice 6R. I think I would probably buy a spot and with extra risk and hold that. So that's kind of how that looks. Excuse me. The A rune is under a small bearish consolidation, so that's another thing I'm waiting for. Doesn't make sense to long right here, especially with the slope being very high. But we do have a bearish or a bullish wedge, so that kind of confirms it. So this is kind of what I'm looking at for this. This looks healthy to me. I don't understand why people think that this is bearish. And that's the thing that drives me nuts. I don't understand why people think we are as bearish or we should be as bearish or whatever. Like it just doesn't make sense from trading analysis. So honestly though, this is basically it for Ethereum. I'm just kind of waiting for that one move. And so we are going down a little bit, but that's perfectly okay. I'm going to look at Solana. I think that's pretty much it. Looking at Solana next, we'll do some alts, maybe like three or four, and we'll just keep going. All right, going on to Solana. A few different things here I want to look at. Nothing's really changed since the last time I discussed this in Discord, but we have the falling wedge. This should end up working out to the upside. That's primarily what I'm looking for. That's the big thing, right? The second thing is that we have this trend line right here. So that's another thing. We have confluence there. So I am looking for a strong bounce. We have a bullish A rune wedge. So I'm a lot of these are working in confluence together. The RSI and the AO are not. So that's something that can be said. We also have a bullish breaker, which should which does make me think that we could go to the downside. So we have conflicting things. We have more bullish things than bearish things, in my opinion. But I think we could probably stay here for a couple days, get a big drop down here, and then it would actually wick up. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm kind of looking for a fake out for Solana as well, because it has not faked out. It's held its position. And so maybe that'll happen over the weekend. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. It's pretty, pretty basic in that regard. It's kind of, it is kind of holding a structure here, so that's good. That's a sign that we are getting some demand here. I bought a bag of Solana earlier this week that I intend to hold till next year, and so we'll see how that goes. But overall, this is looking good. Bullish consolidation on the 12-hour as well. So that's pretty much it with Solana. I think that a bounce is coming sooner than later. And I do think that Solana is probably one of the top coins. I've mentioned this before. Probably one of the top coins that, other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think Solana has the best chance to go back to all-time highs. Now we are under $20, and so it's like a 12x basically. So I think that that is a good option. That is an easy 10x in front of everyone's face that most people are missing. I think people assume that Solana is a good buy right now relative to its all-time high. If it goes to its all-time high, I think everybody kind of understands that, but I don't think people understand that in the moment. That okay, yeah, you don't want to be that person that when Solana is $500, like oh, I wish I would have bought it 20. You know, I've said that to myself so many times. I remember buying Binance coin at $5. $5. Okay. and I let it go. I sold it before it got high, and I think a lot of people did the same. But the thing is, you have these opportunities in front of you all the time. Yes, there is a risk. Yes, you don't know if it's going to happen, but that's just how it works sometimes. So this is something that could happen. So let's go ahead and go to some alts, and just continue this video. All right, first up on the list is Atom. We don't hear a lot about these much as we used to, and it's kind of a shame because I think this has a lot of good potential. I'm going to kind of go above here on the 3 day, kind of see what I mean. Got a very nice retest here, very crystal clean, um, really good setup here. So I really do think that this has a high chance to bounce here. We're going to kind of zoom back in a little bit here on the daily. And so we even have a divergent play right here. And so this is perfect. I don't see why this is getting no discussion, because you could have here like a clean setup about 10%, and you could do something like so. So that would be a good conservative trade if you wanted to look at that one. Another thing that we can do is kind of go to the 4 hour. If you want to do something a little more in the zone, and if you want to do something now, you could target something like so, and then maybe kind of go up to the mid to get about the same 2.5 or even up here. That's welcome as well. The interesting thing too is that you have kind of a trend line forming like so, and so if we break this, it's going to do numbers, and so I think that's something that we need to keep in mind. So if it, sorry, I should put that back there. So that's one thing. If you also wanted to wait to the break, you could do that, but these tend to continue to run when they do so. So you could probably do something like so, but you have probably a less R with that. So this is one that I think you could probably enter in relatively now. I would probably wait for the R side to go above 50 though. We did have a bearish cross, so those are things to consider that we may not have an initial uptrend just yet. It might take maybe 12 hours to get that. You also have the flip right here, but overall, this looks pretty good. I really like this a lot. Again, it's one of those things like you can long or short anytime, but what distincts trading from gambling is that you have key areas that you look for, and this is like the keyest area that you can have. Like this is the biggest area, so it's worth it over other opportunities. So that's something to consider. All right, the next one actually is Aave. It's pretty much super right next to my list, and so this is another one we have kind of like a descending triangle, which I've discussed why I think these are actually not as bearish as you think that they are. But we hit a bottom right here, so this is a good chance to get a long opportunity as well. I kind of want to adjust this. I'm not sure why I don't know if it's a different time frame or what, but this is something that looks good, or maybe it was, I don't know, maybe okay, maybe that's what it was. So I would look for this play right here for a break. And so if we get that, I think that's going to do very similar to Atom. So this is another position that I'm looking at. I think that's relatively good. We got the reclaim on the RSI, and this is a good coin that has a lot of potential and has done quite a bit in this space as well. So it's one of those things where if this goes up, we could see at least a mid to the $58 range, if not 67, and then a good chance to finally break that. So I'm not convinced that these patterns go down, not when they're this large. So we'll see how that goes. But that is Aave, very short. Now we'll go on to maybe two others, and then we'll end the video. All right, so another one actually is comp, and this one's I discussed in the Knowhere Discord that we would pump here. I mentioned that if we cross that, then we could long it. We did. So that is a really good long position. I have not longed that in the Discord portfolio group just yet, but this is pretty good. I would like to. I honestly though would like to see this hold this level, which it currently isn't. So if it can reclaim, I think that's really solid. But overall, this is a coin that has done very well and should do numbers. And again, another asset that probably could go to all-time high eventually. So I think there's more reason to look at this one than other coins like even coins like Pepe. I'll be honest, like they don't really have substantial. Like everybody forgot about Pepe now that FinTech came around. It's just the next thing. FinTech is just it could be something, and I'm not saying it ain't, but there's always the thing, right? And the thing is always the thing that people say that, oh, you got to buy it, it's the next thing, and then it's never the next thing. And so I'm not saying it can't be the next thing. I'm not saying you can't make money off of it, nothing like that. But like, don't sit here and lie to me and say that, oh, Pepe's the next big thing or whatever, when now everybody's forgotten about it now that Fintech's here. Okay, and that's how it always works. People discuss it in numbers. It's literally the next big thing. That everybody says that. They always say it. Okay, and I'm tired of hearing that over and over and over again. But and now nobody talks about it. So anyway, Comp, on the other hand, is a good coin, and it may have had its day. I'm not saying that it has or hasn't, but this is a good positioning if it can reclaim on that one. So that one is available as well, and we'll go on to one more, and I think I'm just going to cover Caspa, and this is a position that we had in the group. It's going well, and this is another one where we have kind of a key structure area here. We broke this, so if you are not long into this right now, I would probably wait for the break, and that's Darvis play is what I call it. So you want to wait for a Darvis break, you break above this, and then you could long again. I think at this point you don't want to long right now because this could be resistance, and that's also where we have our take profit. So good luck with that. But overall, this is a position I've been talking about for a couple weeks now. For the most part, maybe a little over a week. That has worked out very significantly. It's a very clean chart. It's a very good project. I think highly of this one, and looks pretty good. We we have a big we have an uptrend. There's no confirmation on any wedge or consolidation, and so if we continue to run up here, that could be another long opportunity. So anyway, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.